In the world of pro wrestling, there are a few things more prestigious than winning the King of the Ring tournament, but what exactly does it mean to be the King of the Ring? Is it a one-way ticket to the main event in superstardom, or is it just a fancy gimmick, a way to sell a few more t-shirts and action figures? Well, for over 3 decades, the King of the Ring tournament has been a proving ground for some of the biggest names in the business. It's a chance for the up-and-coming stars to make their mark, for established vets to carve their place in history, and for fans to witness the birth of new wrestling megastars. But for every Stone Cold Steve Austin or Triple H who used the King of the Ring as a launching pad to superstardom, there's a Billy Gunn or a Mabel who, well, let's just say they didn't quite live up to the royal hype. So what exactly is the deal with the King of the Ring? Is it a blessing, a curse, or something in between? Well, that's what we're here to find out, folks, because my name is Grease from Wrestleology, and today we're going to take a deep dive into the history of the King of the Ring tournament, from its humble beginnings as a house show attraction to its rise as one of the most prestigious events on the WWE calendar. We'll look at every single winner, from the hits to the flops, the forgotten to the legendary, and try to figure out just what exactly does it mean to be a true King of the Ring. Let's start at the beginning, shall we? The year was 1985, and the WWF, as it was known back then, was in the midst of a major expansion. Vince McMahon had just taken over the company from his father, and he was looking for ideas to make his product stand out from the rest of the wrestling promotions in the territories. One of those ideas was the King of the Ring tournament. Originally formulated as a way to crown a new king of wrestling, the tournament was held every now and then at house shows and on TV throughout the late 80s and early 90s. The winner during this time were guys like Harley Race, Randy Savage, and Bret Hart. All incredible talents, to be sure, but not exactly household names just yet. But then in 1993, something changed. The King of the Ring went from being a sporadic event to a full-fledged pay-per-view, complete with all the pomp and circumstance worthy of a royal coronation. Suddenly, winning the King of the Ring wasn't just a nice feather in your cap. It was a major milestone, a sign that you were destined for big things in the WWF. And for a while there, it seemed like that was the case. Just look at the first few winners of the pay-per-view era: Bret Hart, Owen Hart, and Mabel. Okay, so maybe Mabel wasn't exactly a world beater, but 2 out of 3 ain't bad, right? But it wasn't until 1996 that the King of the Ring truly became the stuff of legends. That was the year that a young, brash upstart by the name of Steve Austin won the tournament, defeating Jake the Snake Roberts in the finals. And what happened next? Well, let's just say it changed the course of wrestling history forever. You see, after winning the tournament, Austin was supposed to deliver a traditional coronation speech, thanking the fans and pledging to be a kind-hearted ruler. But instead, he did something completely unexpected. He went off on Roberts, mocking his religious beliefs and proclaiming himself the King of the Ring, the King of the World, and the toughest sumbitch in the WWF. And finally, putting an exclamation point with the now infamous
Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass.
It was a moment that will go down in history as the birth of Stone Cold Steve Austin, the anti-hero who would go on to become one of the biggest stars in the history of the business. And it all started with the King of the Ring. From there, the King of the Ring became the ultimate launching pad for up-and-coming stars in the WWF. In 1997, Triple H used his victory to jumpstart his main event push, feuding with the likes of Mick Foley and The Undertaker. And then, of course, there was a huge 32-man tournament in 2000, won by none other than everyone's favorite Olympic gold medalist, Kurt Angle. Angle was still a relative newcomer to the WWF at this time, having just debuted a few months earlier. But with this victory, he instantly became a made man, feuding with the likes of Triple H and The Rock, and establishing himself as one of the top stars in the company. And speaking of top stars, how about Brock Lesnar, who went on to become one of the biggest stars in the history of the business. Winning the tournament in 2002 and speedrunning his way to the main event, Lesnar would defeat The Rock in the main event of SummerSlam and become the youngest WWE champion at just the age of 25. But for every success story, there were plenty of King of the Ring winners who just couldn't quite capitalize on their newfound status. Take Billy Gunn, for example. When he won the tournament in 1999, it seemed like he was poised for a major push, but instead, he ended up stuck in the same old New Age Outlaws tag team, never quite breaking through that next level. Or how about William Regal? When Regal won the tournament in 2008, on paper, it seemed to be the perfect opportunity for him to get to the main event. But despite suiting the role of the king to an absolute T, Regal failed to make the most out of the opportunity, as he would find himself juggling multiple roles as then interim Raw GM am, introducing himself into mini feuds against the likes of Triple H and John Cena, and getting stuck in a lackluster feud with Mr. Kennedy, culminating in a loser gets fired match. In reality, Regal was suspended from the company for violating the wellness policy for a second time, and by the time he was back, the ship had already sailed. It's not hard to wonder what might have been had Regal capitalized on this opportunity and been given a more traditional King of the Ring push, and perhaps it would have finally been his defining moment. But speaking of defining moments, we gotta talk about King Booker. While Booker T was already an established name in the WWE, he had never won the big one. However, in 2006, when Booker T won the tournament, unlike some of the previous winners, he fully embraced the persona of a king. With his royal scepter, crown, and grand pronouncements, King Booker became a memorable character. He even had his own royal court with Queen Sharmell by his side. Booker's king gimmick was a highlight of his career, leading to a World Heavyweight Championship reign and feuds with top stars like Rey Mysterio and Batista at the time. Many fans even consider King Booker as the most memorable King of the Ring winner in history, putting him right up there with Stone Cold Steve Austin. And then there are the more recent kings, the ones who tried to recapture that old magic but never quite managed to reach the same heights as their predecessors. Take Sheamus for example. When the Celtic Warrior won the tournament in 2010, it seemed like a perfect fit. He was already a former WWE champion, and his hard-hitting, no-nonsense style made him feel like a natural fit for the King of the Ring crown. But despite a few memorable moments, including a hilarious coronation segment where he was forced to wear a goofy crown and robe, Sheamus's reign as king never quite lived up to its potential. He feuded with the likes of John Morrison and Randy Orton, but it always felt like he was just treading water, never really breaking through that next level. That is, of course, until a couple years later. But the same could also be said for Wade Barrett, who won the tournament in 2015. Like Sheamus, Barrett seemed like a natural fit for the king gimmick. He had the look, the swagger, and the in-ring skills to back it up. But despite a few promising moments, including a memorable feud with Neville, Barrett's reign as king felt more like a footnote than a true turning point in his career. He would eventually retire from active competition the following year, never quite achieving the main event success that many had predicted for him. And then there's Baron Corbin. Oh, Baron Corbin. When the Lone Wolf won the King of the Ring tournament in 2019, it was supposed to be his big breakout moment, the chance for him to finally shed his boring reputation and become a true main event player. And for a little while, it seemed like it actually might work. Corbin embraced the king gimmick, adopting a new look, a new entrance, and a whole new attitude. He even got a few high-profile matches out of the deal against Roman Reigns at TLC and Royal Rumble. But in the end, it just wasn't enough. Despite his best efforts, Corbin just couldn't quite connect with the fans in the way that a true King of the Ring needs to. His matches were often dull and uninspired, and his promos, well, let's just say they weren't the best. By the time he lost the crown to Shinsuke Nakamura in 2021, it almost felt like a mercy killing, a chance for Corbin to finally move on from a gimmick that had long since worn out its welcome. He did go on to have that Happy Corbin gimmick as well, which I wasn't a huge fan of, but I'm not gonna lie, the work that Baron Corbin has done in NXT over the last year and will hopefully now do on the main roster once again, I am super excited for Corbin's future. Which finally brings us to the 2021 tournament won by Xavier Woods. Having multiple tag team title reigns to his name as a part of the New Day, the King of the Ring was Woods' first major individual accolade in the WWE. Adopting the King Woods moniker, knighting Kofi Kingston, and completely embracing the gimmick with a cape, crown, and scepter, this seemed to be Woods' breakout moment. Woods would then enter a feud with the Bloodline, even scoring a victory over Roman Reigns, albeit by DQ. But just when it seemed like Woods was about to get his big singles run, he would get diagnosed with a torn plantaris, putting him on the shelf for the next 6 weeks, bringing his King Woods run to a screeching halt. Talk about bad timing. So what can we learn from the history of the King of the Ring? Well, one thing's for certain, winning the tournament in itself is no guarantee of success. Sure, it can be a great way to get noticed and a shortcut to the top of the card, but it's not a magic bullet. At the end of the day, it's up to the wrestler themselves to take that opportunity and run with it and connect with the fans in a way that makes them stand out, just like Booker T and Stone Cold Steve Austin. But at the same time, it's hard to deny the power and prestige that comes with being crowned the King of the Ring. Whether you're a newcomer looking to make a name for yourself or an established star looking to add another accolade to your resume, there's just something special about holding that crown and proclaiming yourself the best of the best. And now with the 2024 King of the Ring, one that hopefully will be won by Gunther and push him to the main event after losing his Intercontinental Championship, I think the future is looking bright, and I think Triple H is about to start fixing the King of the Ring. In fact, this year we're also having the first Queen of the Ring, with both winners getting world title shots at SummerSlam, which I think is a fantastic idea. But with that being said, what are your thoughts on the King of the Ring tournament? Is it a ticket to the main event or just a fancy excuse for WWE to sell more merch? Do you think this year's King of the Ring winner will finally be able to restore its glory? Let me know in the comments and drop a like on the video if you enjoyed. Also, subscribe to not miss the next one, and I'll see you guys later.